Call me Ocean, call me Tituba, call me Mama Lisa, call me the Seven Sisters because I am a shapeshifter. Call me by your name, cousin. I am you. In African and Caribbean ritual, we are centric. Men bow to us, they worship us, they pray to us, they sing to us in pain. We were born into the circle of the divine feminine. We are creativity, we are the muse, we are power. The sun rises and sets by our breath as we breathe life into being. There is no light until we decide to push. We are women. Welcome to this communal space. This is all about the future, but I'm asking you today to look to the past. Women birthed in circles because that communal space was about giving life. It was about community. One of the things that I've learned in the last few years is that community truly can pour into you and lift you up. I have a question for you. Why did you come here today? Was it just to better your business? Or are you also here for your fellow businesswomen to support and be supported? If the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we can make connection in any space. In the last 2 years, I have learned that I love connecting. It is my superpower. I love building community. It is where I thrive. Community can pull you out of the deepest, darkest depression. The circles that I have intertwined myself into have been my saving grace. They can be yours too. There are so many places that we forget to look, that we dwell in shadows for far too long, that we forget what light looks like. Your sister can be the light. Your cousin can be the light. Your aunties can be the light. Your nieces can be the light. And I'm not talking about bloodlines, although there probably are some ancestral linkage in these rooms. I'm talking about mentorship. I am talking about allyship. I am talking about your fellow businesswoman, your fellow student, your fellow womankind, just sitting next to you. We work in fellowship with others because when you have like-minded people next to you who understand what you are going through, it lifts you up. How many times have you been somewhere and you see another brown face and you have breathed a sigh of relief because you felt recognized? When you see a reflection of yourself in another, there's relief. I remember the day I realized I had 5 best friends that didn't know each other. They just didn't. My relationships were an amalgamation of the various stages of my life: mom, sister, childhood, college, all the friends that I had gained over the years. My best friends didn't know that I'd been given the title of best friend long before I was ready to commit to such devotion. I remember listening to a podcast by 3 of the women from my alma mater, my college. And they were talking about how cliquish our all-women college was. I remember being flabbergasted because I thought that it was basically this wonderfully strict sorority. That's what campus felt like to me. It felt like a place where you could be uplifted. It felt like a place where you could be supported and inspired. And here are these 3 women that I felt were strong Black women who I saw doing great things on campus. And they did not agree. They didn't have a good time on campus. They saw it as cliquish, as catty, and as a place that would pull you down. So when I saw one of these women, I asked, I said, how did we have such a different experience? Where is this, how did we have such a diverse memory? And she said, of course, Shay, of course, you got along with everybody. And I was floored, but she was right. Because even though not everyone's cup of tea, I am the type of person that wants to like and be liked by everyone. I don't want one best friend, I want all best friends. Because my core value is community. And that's what I do. I build communities wherever I go. And I've learned that when you can build a community, when you can find those people that look like you or think like you or want what you want, you can thrive. And I feel like that's what was missing for these three women at that time. They couldn't find people that thought the way they did. They had people that looked like them, but they didn't have people that thought like them. Now, just 2 years ago, I was crippled by depression, anxiety, and what was eventually diagnosed as PTSD. I am the only Black woman in my house. I have a daughter, but I'm the only Black woman in my house. I'm the only business owner. I'm the only mother, the only wife, the only daughter of a Black single mother. There is no one in my home who understands that intersection of my lived experience. But I'll bet there are many of you in this room who do. Don't get me wrong. I have plenty of familial support at home. My kids love me. My 14-year-old thinks I am a cool mom. Right now, there is nothing like a 14-year-old thinking you're cool, okay? My 8-year-old calls me Mom CEO, which is beautiful. And I call my man Dr. Husband because he has a PhD in me. But my husband doesn't wade in the waters of Blackness. He doesn't birth babies. And he doesn't yearn for underwire that doesn't snatch your soul. I was having anxiety attacks multiple times a month. And the only thing that would bring me solace was my husband's bear hugs. But when he's commuting 2 hours a day, that solace was hard to come by. So I found myself having false starts in my business. Relationships were falling by the wayside. I was crying after phone calls with my mother because I did not know how to protect my space. I did not know how to protect myself from negative conversations with the people that I was ingrained in. I let their negativity become my negativity. I let their hurt become my pain. I carried the weight of others without concerning myself with my own mental health, with my own emotional health. It wasn't until I got writer's block, of all things, that my namesake in this writer's group, in a writer's group, asked me, she said, when you write and you're blocked, where does that feeling sit in your body? And recognizing that I was writing about my own upbringing, I realized that I was writing about the very first community I was ever a part of, home. And I was writing about a poisonous time in my life, a time when I didn't feel protected, a time when I had to mother myself. I was writing about a time when gun violence was at an all-time high in my neighborhood. My protector was fighting back within me, just writing about it. And so building up that wall was so strong and so innate and so ingrained in me that I couldn't even write about it. And my subconscious had taken over. And asking me that question, she had unknowingly turned a key and unlocked something in me. I started going to therapy and learned that all of these communities that I put myself in had brought me to this point. The realization that I came to was that these communities have served me so hard. There are many spaces that we find ourselves in that are poisonous, and we have to pull ourselves out. But we can get there. That story I was writing was too close to home. It was too close to home. I found myself doing everything in my power not to be like home. I lived in suburbs as opposed to gangland. It was a vibrant juxtaposition to how I grew up. My children were allowed to have opinions. I know, not something a Black mom usually allows. I own my own business, several businesses, and my family still does not understand what it is that I do. But as I say to many people, your family doesn't need to understand what you do, just like you don't need to understand the mechanics of basketball to cheer your son on at a game. You don't need that. That's not what community is. Community is supporting someone when they need it and supporting them in the way they need support. You don't have to understand what it is they do. You have to understand what it is they need. That is community. In order for us to move forward, community building is where it's at. We have to be able to lift each other up and pull up the next one. There are 3 communities that every entrepreneur needs in order to thrive. You need a professional community, those like-minded individuals, those business partners, those people who are on the same path or slightly ahead on the path than you. You need your personal, that's your family, your friends. Those are the people who need to understand your boundaries. If you've got a man or a woman and you need them to watch the kids so that you can have your 3 hours in the morning, tell them that. They don't need to understand what you do. They don't need to understand why you're making tutus at 2 o'clock in the morning. But they need to understand that if you say, I'm making tutus at 2 o'clock in the morning, I need you to give me that space. That's how they can support you. And then there's your intrapersonal tribe. That's you. That is a tribe of one. You have to understand you. You have to support you. You have to make your own boundaries. Because if you don't understand that tribe of one, then those other 2 communities are not going to know how to serve you. They're not going to know, you're not going to know what to tell them. If I live life at a 10 and you live life at a 5, but you don't know that you live life at a 5, how are you going to tell me that you can't get up here? You've got to be able to tell people that you can't live life at a 10. I'm vibrant, I'm loud, but if you live life at a 5, I'm not for you, okay? Or you gotta tell me you live life at a 5 so I can come down to your level. It's much harder for you to come up here than it is for me to come down there. So that's why the interpersonal tribe is the most important. You gotta understand yourself. You gotta do self-care and you gotta do self-restoration. Self-restoration is very important to the intrapersonal tribe. What I'm offering is a way for you to cultivate these communities. Get out there to conferences, talk to people. I'm hoping today that you find 5 women. If you see somebody in the comments saying something that you were just about to say, look for her, connect with her, talk to her offline, off of this platform. And do that all 5 days. And then by the end of this summit, you'll have 25 women in your community that you know you have something in common with. You all did the Blaze Summit. That's 25 women. 5 women today, 5 women the next day, the next. Okay? That's 25 women that you can reach out to. I'll even give you a way to track her. I'll just add that. I'll give you a way to track her. You'll be able to do that. Okay? Build those communities, build those connections. Advocate, support, and inspire these women, and then let them do the same to you, for you, with you. Pour into them and let them pour into you, because that is the future of women, and that is how we will continue to build communities, because we are the backbone. There's nothing like walking into a room and knowing that if I needed to pull this wig off, I could, because y'all understand it gets itchy sometimes. I know that because that's just the type of space this is. That's the community that I am in. Those are the spaces I show up. I show up in places where people understand me. And that's what I want for every other woman. Thank you.